Hello there, and you're very welcome along to the ENAJ Online Forum for 2023. This is the third year of this forum, coming to you live from the European Parliament here in Brussels. And the theme of this year's forum is young people in farming. Generational renewal is a huge issue right across Europe, and we hope over the next few minutes that we can address some of the issues as to why that is actually happening. We have some live guests to talk to, and later we'll also be hearing from the EU Agriculture Commissioner Janusz Wojciechowski. But first, let's go to Italy for a word from our President, Lisa Bellocchi.
Dear Commissioner, dear colleagues, dear Damien, good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you all to the annual virtual forum hosted by ENAJ, the European Network of Agricultural Journalists. We are honored to have with us the European Commissioner, Mr. Janusz Wojciechowski, whose insights and expertise are instrumental in shaping agricultural politics at the European level. And we are also privileged to be joined by Jérémy de Serle from France, a famous member of the European Parliament, who brings the wealth of his personal experience to our discussion. The 2023 topics of the virtual forum is youth in agriculture. From statistics, we learn that 1/3 of the European farmers is aged more than 65 years. Therefore, the incoming of young people in rural activities is crucial. Our panelist, Peter Medendorp from the Netherlands, the president of CEJA, the European Organization of Young Farmers, makes clear the integral role that the young people plays in the agricultural sector. And we are fortunate to add the perspective of the Italian ag journalist Angelo Di Mambro, strongly committed in reporting the agricultural issues. In the course of this forum, we will be revealing the name of the winner of the award for the video contest on youth in agriculture. And we embark on this enriching journey of ideas and perspectives, and Damien, the ENAJ Vice President, will help us to foster a meaningful discourse on European agriculture. But before leaving to him the scene, let me thank all the members of the ENAJ Management Committee. We act like a close-knit team to improve freedom of press and agricultural journalism. So thank you to you all to be here, and I wish you an enlightening and productive forum.
Lisa, thank you very much indeed for that very warm welcome message. And as Lisa mentioned there, once again this year, we're delighted that the EU Agriculture Commissioner, Janusz Wojciechowski, has once again accepted our invitation to address our forum. Now, he can't be here with us in person, but he has sent us this message.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is often said that the media is a sector in crisis with a changing business model to meet a changing world. We also hear the same about agriculture. And in the both sectors, as the theme of this year's forum suggests, young people are struggling. They are struggling to find a stable, sufficient income. They are struggling to be recognized in their own job and to find their own path. The farming population is aging. In 2020, only 1 in 10 EU farmers was under 44. More than ever, we need to attract younger generations into farming. More than ever, we need their ideas and their innovations. However, young people face many obstacles to become a farmer, such as access to land and access to credit. Farming in Europe also means family farms, and establishing a family life in remote and rural areas can often be challenging, with limited access to public services and digital connectivity, which are nowadays essential. So, what can we do to help young farmers? First of all, generational renewal is a political objective of the European Commission and is one of the key priorities of the Common Agriculture Policy. Between now and 2027, we aim to support over 370,000 new young farmers through the Common Agriculture Policy. In their national strategic plans, member states must dedicate an equivalent of at least 3% of their annual direct payment envelope to generational renewal. The Common Agriculture Policy offers a variety of support options to member states, including complementary income support for young farmers, as well as installation aid for young farmers, new farmers, and rural business startups. Support can also take the form of grants, loans, or guarantees, including financial instruments. Young farmers can further benefit from cooperation activities for transfer of holdings as well as access to advisory services. However, the Common Agriculture Policy does not work alone in supporting the development of rural areas and our territories. Cohesion policy also contributes to this objective. Furthermore, member states have to get on board and put generational renewal on the top of their agenda by addressing areas in their national competence, like access to land, inheritance and succession rights. And of course, agriculture journalists also have a role to play. You amplify the voices of farmers of all generations and from every corner of Europe. As a members of the ENAJ, you create a European space for agriculture news, a space to discover the latest developments in various countries, to share best practices and to broaden horizons. More dialogue and less polarization. In her State of the European Union address, this is what President von der Leyen called for. That is why we are launching a strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture. With this dialogue, we want to listen to the ideas and concerns of all farmers and citizens. However, it is impossible to speak with 450 million people individually. That is why we need you. I encourage you not simply to follow this dialogue, but to drive it. Drive it with your questions, your scrutiny, and your commentary. Drive it with the voices of your audience, your readers, your listeners, and your viewers in farming and rural communities. Drive the dialogue and amplify it across Europe by raising the attention of citizens and sectors of society who do not always engage in discussions on agriculture. In short, I encourage you to bring your views, your voices and your vocations as agriculture journalists to drive our dialogue and to drive the future of farming in the European Union. On that note, I thank you for your time. I congratulate you once again on your excellent and essential work, and I wish you a constructive forum.
That was the EU Agriculture and Rural Affairs Commissioner, Janusz Wojciechowski, and thank you very much to the Commissioner for addressing us once again this year at the ENAJ Annual Online Forum, which is coming to you live this evening from the European Parliament here in Brussels. And next June, all across Europe, we will have the opportunity to go to the polls and elect a new Parliament here. This is something that happens every 5 years. And indeed, the MEPs that will be elected here next June will play a major role in deciding on new rules and regulations which affect us all in our daily lives, but none more so than for farmers across the EU. Virtually everything a farmer does on the land is impacted by decisions that are made here. Now, French MEP and farmer Jeremy Dussel is our host this year, and we are very, very thankful that he has invited us and our guests to the European Parliament. He sits on the Agricultural Committee here in the Parliament as well. Now, earlier this week, I sat down with Monsieur Dussel to talk to him about challenges facing young farmers. Monsieur Dussel, merci beaucoup d'accueillir les forums ENAJ de cette année. La santé mise sur les jeunes agriculteurs. Vous êtes un membre de la Commission d'agriculture du Parlement européen. Dans quelle mesure êtes-vous préoccupé par les défis auxquels sont confrontés les jeunes agriculteurs dans l'EU?
Bien, déjà, merci de m'accueillir à vous. Désolé de ne pas pouvoir être directement avec vous. Je voudrais redire, en tant qu'agriculteur et en tant qu'ancien président aussi des jeunes agriculteurs en France, en tant qu'ancien membre des jeunes agriculteurs au niveau européen, bien évidemment que la question du renouvellement des générations, que la question du bien-être des jeunes en agriculture est quelque chose qui me préoccupe au plus haut point. Et tout simplement parce que je pense que la plus grande richesse que l'agriculture européenne est en train de perdre, c'est la richesse humaine. Donc, pour éviter, ou en tout cas pour enrayer cette dynamique descendante de la démographie agricole, eh bien, il faut renouveler les générations et il faut donner envie aux jeunes de rentrer dans les métiers de l'agriculture et dans l'agriculture. Donc, je suis plus que préoccupé et j'ai... En tout cas, ce n'est pas du fatalisme, mais j'ai vraiment envie que collectivement, on réussisse à mettre un coup de projecteur sur le défi générationnel en agriculture.
Dans votre pays, la France, j'ai entendu dire par exemple que la production allait diminuer dans les nombreux secteurs en raison d'une pénurie des jeunes agriculteurs. Et c'est vrai?
C'est vrai en France, mais malheureusement, c'est vrai partout en Europe. Et aujourd'hui, il y a que 5% des agriculteurs qui ont moins de 35 ans et il y a plus de 50% des agriculteurs qui ont plus de 55 ans en Europe. Donc, les chiffres, enfin, les tendances que vous avez données pour la France sont malheureusement identiques quasiment partout en Europe. Et donc, il y a vraiment un enjeu à ce qu'au niveau européen, on fasse de l'agriculture, on refasse de l'agriculture un véritable secteur stratégique. Et ça passera par des moyens nouveaux, financiers, techniques qu'on devra apporter au secteur. Et pour le coup, on peut en parler dès maintenant, la politique agricole commune aujourd'hui ne suffit pas pour justement avoir un renouvellement des générations digne de ce nom et adapté finalement à nos besoins. Donc on devra aller chercher des moyens supplémentaires.
OK. Les propositions politiques du Green Deal de l'EU sont-elles positives pour les jeunes agriculteurs?
Pas toutes. Pas toutes. Forcément que les jeunes agriculteurs ont la volonté de jouer leur rôle pleinement dans la lutte contre le changement climatique et donc le Green Deal et les ambitions de ce pacte vert sont plutôt en adéquation avec le ressentiment des jeunes sur ces questions-là. Par contre, dans les objectifs du pacte vert, il faudra qu'il y ait un peu plus aussi de moyens, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, mais d'outils techniques, d'innovation, de nouvelles techniques aussi culturelles, d'élevage qui soient apportées. Et ça, c'est aussi du rôle du Green Deal que d'aller chercher les jeunes, d'attirer les jeunes avec des nouveautés un peu attractives et j'allais dire sexy.
Que peut faire le prochain cap pour résoudre les jeunes agriculteurs sur l'avenir?
la prochaine PAC devra être résolument dirigée vers les jeunes. Ça ne veut pas dire qu'il faut arrêter les dispositifs existants, mais il faut les renforcer et avoir des spécificités jeunes sur ces dispositifs au niveau européen. Et on a réussi modestement et puis peut-être avec à peine assez j'allais dire de volonté à augmenter un peu le budget dédié à la jeunesse dans la dernière réforme de la PAC. Là, je crois qu'il faudra sortir le grand jeu et être vraiment volontariste pour que chaque État membre mette en place des dispositifs financiers puissants pour engager les jeunes dans l'agriculture. Et ça, voilà, il faudra vraiment que l'Europe le fasse. Il y a d'autres puissances agricoles dans le monde qui réussissent, sans doute grâce aussi à leur politique agricole, qui réussissent à maintenir les actifs dans des courbes plutôt intéressantes. Ce n'est pas le cas en Europe, donc on doit aussi, si on veut jouer notre rôle pleinement en matière d'agriculture et d'alimentation sur cette planète, on doit faire confiance et mettre le paquet sur les hommes et les femmes qui demain feront l'agriculture européenne.
Très bien, d'accord. Monsieur Dessel, je vous remercie.
Merci à vous.
Et vous souhaitez un très bon Noël.
Merci beaucoup, à vous aussi.
And thank you very much to Jeremy Dessel for that interview recorded earlier this week. Well, I'm joined here now in the European Parliament by Peter Miedendorp, who is the president of SEJA, the Young Farmers Union of Europe, and by journalist Angelo Di Mambro, who is a Brussels-based Italian journalist focusing on agri-food, energy, the environment and the EU. Thank you both very much for joining us here live this evening. I might start with you, Peter, just on the issue of young farmers. Are we facing a crisis when it comes to attracting young people to work the land into the future?
Well, let me start by first thanking you for the invitation. It's an honor of being here in your live Congress. And then to answering your question, I think, well, as Jeremy said as well, if we look at the numbers, there is really a crisis going on. 10% of farmers is under the age of 40. Half of farmers is above the age of 55, which means that they're out of business in less than 15 years. This is going to mean something for the agricultural sector, but not just for the agricultural sector. It's also going to mean something for the entire ecosystem that is behind the agricultural sector. Jeremy very smartly pointed already out that in France we're seeing a lack of supply because of no young farmers being there anymore. And I feel like, and also my members feel like, it's not because of a lack of willingness of young people to enter the sector. The hurdles are just getting higher and higher for young people to take over farms. There are so many things that make the process of generational renewal so complicated, and therefore I'm very happy that we're also discussing here young farmers and that you made it the topic of your
Yeah, so there are many reasons. It's not just financial reasons in terms of incomes or anything like that. There are lots of reasons, you're saying.
Most certainly. It's also income. Income is a very important aspect of it, but it's also, well, as the Commissioner also mentioned, access to land, access to finance. We're having to deal with new climate realities. It used to be the case that 1 out of 5 years was quite extreme, referring to my own farm. But now we're seeing rather 4 out of 5 years that is quite extreme. Well, that is definitely complicating my farm business model and also the opportunities for me to take over the farm and etc.
Yeah. Okay, Angela, just if I can come to you. I mean, you're on the beat here around Brussels and you're reporting on agriculture, the environment, energy, EU affairs. Is this a topic that is growing momentum in terms of, you know, are people beginning to speak more about where are the young farmers of the future going to come from?
It's for sure something that has come back, at least in the debate in the agricultural sector. I'm not sure that people outside the sector is aware of that and is aware of risks like the ones that Peter was underlying. There is another risk. The demand is there, so. If there is no generational renewal, we will have bigger farms. We will have a concentration. We will have
we'll have the same output with bigger farms.
Yes, maybe the lack of supply is a risk. Another risk is the concentration, is the loss of diversity of the EU agriculture, because this is one of the keys of our resilience, of the resilience of the European model. That there is a European model in agriculture. It's the diversity model, and then also. There is a problem with there is a change happening in rural areas that we should be able to leverage on. It's we can see it in many different aspects. If I look, for instance, at the message coming from the elections in the Netherlands, where the issue of social security in rural areas, the social, the social fabric in rural areas was asking for more security, was asking for that. In other countries like Poland, people they call it the reurbanization. People is moving to the countryside, but it's not because they want to be farmers. They want to live in the countryside. And in France, I was reading 2 days ago, 3 days ago, an interesting article on the, let's say, new countryside settler that filed court cases because of the noise of the farm, because they were not used of the noise of the cock. So it's happening something there. It's happening a movement, and I guess we should be able, with the EU institutions, but also local institutions, to leverage on that to get closer the production and the consumption of food.
Okay, and just on, yes, Peter.
Yeah, maybe to react on that also on the supply side. Well, without young farmers, there will be less and less supply, and maybe farms will get bigger. But when I'm looking at my area, and when I'm talking to young farmers in my area, but also when I'm at CEJA, at our European Council of Young Farmers, and talking to our members, not all farmers are capable of doubling their production. They don't have the land to do it. They certainly don't have the labor to do it, or the management skills. So young farmers are definitely a threat to the current supply. And actually, I think also talking a bit about the agricultural bubble, you're speaking about that the processors and maybe the retail should be the hardest advocates for young farmers, maybe even more so than we.
Yeah, and it's a particular issue in the Netherlands, of course, as we know, where actually farmers are being CPO'd, or family farmers are being shut down by the government, and we do know about the political implications of that in recent election results. Can I ask you about the image of agriculture? Because we do know that we're in the Green Deal, we're in the European Farm to Fork policy scenario at the moment, where new rules and regulations curbing production are being introduced to obviously tackle climate change and protect biodiversity. Farmers are the first victims of climate change, as we know, particularly in Europe. Crops, in crop yields are affected by the heat and so on. So farmers are willing to play their part. However, there is a growing division, obviously, between some aspects of the general public and food producers about what direction that travel should be into the future in how we continue to protect biodiversity while at the same time producing enough food. So we have an environmental versus agricultural kind of division. The image of agriculture suffers somewhat in the middle of all that. Is that another reason why young people are kind of maybe turning away from farming?
Well, I think when it comes to the nature versus agricultural debate, that is something that has been politicized a lot last year, maybe more so than should have been. Agriculture and nature are actually two things that can work very closely together. We see it a lot in different countries. Nevertheless, of course, there are challenges also for young farmers, maybe especially for young farmers, because we're the generation that have to execute this farm to fork regulations. When I'm talking with my dad about it, he's complaining about it. Well, I actually have to do it, and then, But coming back at it, I think some of these, what is making it very complicated with some of these regulations, that it's not always clear what to do on farm level. We have these targets of carbon reduction, of 50% reduction of PPPs, of plant protection products. But what does it mean for my farm? I have no idea. Can I adjust my management practices to reduce the carbon emission or the negative externalities to nature? This is actually quite a crucial step before we can give a new perspective to young farmers.
Sure.
What do these measures actually mean?
Yeah, and just on that, Angelo, what about bureaucracy? Bureaucracy and red tape has always been the enemy of the farmer. They will complain about the legislation and the high bar that they must jump to obviously receive their CAP payments. But now we have this new layer of farm to fork policy coming down the road as well. Are farmers, is that going to affect younger farmers getting involved in a business that, you know, they feel is already over-regulated?
In my view, it's so the issue of red tape is something that is recurrent. So what we are seeing in these days, in my view, is that there are issues that are coming back because they have been neglected for some years. To be sincere, to be frank, in my view, the debate on Green Deal, as I lived it on the Green Deal applied to agri-food sector, we neglected the social and economic sustainability, and the highlights were on environment. That's true. That's just. That's fair. But when we get back to look at what has changed in the last 5 years for the agricultural, let's say, main topics of debate, it seems we are stuck to 5 years ago. Red tape is one of those things. Generation renewal is one of those things. Peter just said something very important. They are the first generation that has to cope with concrete solutions to respond to that. So let's put aside, now that we have discussed it for 4 years, let's put aside these greatest system targets and let's focus on solution on the farm level. And this cannot be done from the EU only, but also from farmers and local authorities. I say it again, it's a big challenge. So there was a climatologue 2 days ago saying, okay, let's go out from this tyranny of the targets. You know, it's time for concrete solution, and they are the ones called to implement them. So it's serious.
Yeah. And at the heart of an awful lot of the discussions that are happening are obviously farm organisations, of which you're the new president. Congratulations on your election earlier this summer as leader of the Young Farmers of Europe. Is that another challenge, apart from obviously keeping people working on the land, taking over the family farm? Is it a challenge to find young people now that will give their spare time to organisations like SEJA, to the young farm organisations and general farm organisations in countries, and also give their time to maybe serving on their co-op boards or going into, you know, secondary agricultural businesses regarding R&D and so on? Is that another challenge that we probably are not aware of, but could be a big problem?
Well, something we identified ourselves as well as SEJA is with the decrease of young farmers, our member organizations, our national member organizations, are getting less and less members as well, possibly threatening their financial position, but also, well, who is going to be in a board when you have fewer and fewer members. So we indeed see it as a threat. Nevertheless, with this politicalization of farming, and with this much being at stake also from a political level, we also see young people getting even more motivated to stand up for their sector, the sector they love so much, the sector they have so much ambition in.
Okay, well, a final point I want to put to you, Angelo, briefly, and that is in relation to the election is coming up next year. And the Common Agricultural Policy traditionally has gobbled up most of the, you know, European budget. It's gone from almost 100% down now maybe to 30%. Do you feel that in this House here, in this Parliament, that agriculture has been, I suppose, passed out now in terms of how important it is, because there are so many other issues facing Europeans?
Look, Since 2022, we are facing a totally new scenario with where there are some compelling issues that we gave for granted, and agriculture and food production is one of those. Look at the price, look at the inflation, look at the price of food at the shelf. People look at that, consumers look at that.
Yeah, the cost,
and they feel something has changed.
Yeah, the cost of living is a big issue in every household around Europe, and obviously that will play into people's decision making at the polls next June. I want to thank you both very much for joining us here today for this online forum, and wish you every success in your presidency, and I'm no doubt we'll be seeing you around Brussels lots over the next few years. Thank you both to Angelo and to Peter. Well, before we finished, we asked our members across Europe to submit a video focused on the issue of young farmers, and our panel of judges on the management committee, they watched them all, and they had a very tough decision to make in terms of choosing one video that encapsulates what European young farmers are facing in terms of challenges and opportunities. And I'm delighted here now to announce that 27-year-old Sebastian Christensen from Denmark is our winner. He's producing Wagyu cattle, but he has also faced many challenges during the start of his farming career. He'd like to have a realistic picture of farming from experienced farmers, and Sebastian thinks that there are obvious possibilities for synergy between generations. We'd like to congratulate Sebastian and Danish journalist Frederik Talwitzer for helping us and helping Sebastian in putting together that video. So we're going to leave you with this message from Sebastian. But before I go, I wanted to thank Monsieur Jeremy Dessel and his team, including Marie-Julie Fayard, for being our hosts here this evening. Also, thanks to the technical team from VoxPox here at the European Parliament, and to our guests Peter and Angelo, my colleagues on the ENAJ, and also to you. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye and Merry Christmas.
27-year-old Sebastian Christensen, Denmark, is producing Wagyu cattle, but he has faced many challenges during his start.
So I started about 2.5 years ago, while I was still in school, and have been in school for the first 2 years. And I hope that next year, when I'm 3.5, 4 years into it, that I can live off it. It has taken a lot of hours, but I now get to a point where I can harvest the benefits of all the time I put in.
He would like to have a realistic picture of farming from experienced farmers.
As a young farmer, it seems like it's either like the older generation really want to help you, or they just tell you all the disadvantages of being a farmer. There's nowhere in between where they're trying to give you a realistic picture.
Sebastian thinks there are obvious possibilities for synergy between generations.
I would like them to maybe, instead of holding onto all their property when they're gone into retirement, maybe just lease it out to a young farmer. I heard of a farmer that he gave up half his farm to a young farmer for him doing all the work. So in that way they did a change in the generations, and he still owns half the farm and gets all the benefit of a young guy coming in with a new energy and a lot of ideas. And so I think like maybe adapting more to or accepting that the young farmers can come in with new ideas and it's not going to ruin it.